All right, guys, we're on day 3, comparing and ordering integers. Remember, integers are positive and negative numbers. So again, if we are going to compare them, looking at a number line does help. So we're going to use number lines today, and also trying to compare them using inequalities or greater than or less than signs. All right, so on your notes, you have a blank number line. This is what I would like for you to do. I would like for you to write these arrows on your number line. So just draw an arrow to the right, and I want you to write that the numbers get bigger. As they go to the right, the numbers get bigger. And I want you to draw an arrow and go this way to the left and write numbers get smaller. I know you're thinking right now, obviously, duh, but it's going to come in handy once we really deal with the negative parts of it. When you start comparing negative numbers, this number line really is going to help you. So pause the video if you need to, and go ahead and write that down. All right, so when you're looking at a number line, just remember that any number to the right, the further it is to the right, the greater it is. The further it is to the left, the smaller the number is. Okay? All right, so let's do a couple of examples here. All right, so let's see. On your number line, you don't have this one, so let's just do a couple of these together first before you get started. So let's just say that I have -4. I'm looking at -4 and -2. So -4 and -2, which one do you think is the greater number? Which one is the greater number? This is why the number line does help, because in your mind, when you think of 4 and 2, obviously 4 is the greater number. But when we're talking about negative numbers, -4 or -2, actually 2 is the greater number. Because remember, once you get into the negatives, you're dealing with debt here. You're dealing with things that you owe. So being -4, that's worse than -2. So you owe someone more. So -2 is a greater number than -4. Okay? All right, so let's use the number line to help us put them in order. Remember, we're going to put them from greatest to least. So the greater the numbers are over here on the right side. Okay, so we're looking at the greater numbers. So this would have to be 6. So this is my greatest number, followed by 1, followed by 0, then -2, and -4. Okay, so greatest to smallest. I should have said least to greatest, but greatest to smallest. All right, so greatest number here. Okay, remember the greatest number is the furthest number to the right. So if you look at the number line, the furthest number to the right is actually going to be -1. You see that? So if need be, I'm going to use that number line. I'm going to go ahead and use it. So I've got -2, -4, -1, and -13, which would be way over here. That's -13. So the greatest number is going to be -1, followed by -2, followed by -4, and then -13. So greatest number is the furthest one to the right. Remember, that's why I said that's important. All right, let's go over here to this one. I'm going to erase those, and I'm going to come to these. So -6, +6, -3, +3, and 0. The greatest numbers are to the right, so that would be 6, 3, 0, -3, -6. You see how that number line is going to help me? Okay? All right, so the greatest number is going to obviously be my positive number, followed by -1, -22, and -36. Okay? All right, now you have 1. Go ahead and use your number line. I think you're going to need to use your number line if you need to, and then put them in order from least to greatest. You have 2 of them to do. Go ahead and do those 2 and come back and check your answers. Let's do it and make sure you see this time. It is least to greatest. Least to greatest. So the smallest number first. All right, check your answer on your first one. Okay, if you notice, I used my number line here. That did help me to go from least, remember the smallest numbers are this direction, least all the way to the greatest number here. Okay, that's the first one. And check your second one. Again, my smallest number is down here, smallest number. Okay? All right, now let's move on to writing an inequality. An inequality is just comparing two numbers using the greater than or less than sign. Okay, so again, if you have positive numbers, that's really easy to do. Obviously, 5 is greater than 3, 7 is less than 9. But when you get into those negative numbers, that's when it gets really tricky. So again, I just copied this from before, and you can use your notes because this really does help. So -4 and -1. So if -4 is here, and -1 is here, is -4 less than or greater than? Remember, it is a smaller number, so it is less than. Okay, I'm going to do the next one. -3 and -8. So -3 is here, and -8 is going to be way over here. So is -3 greater than or less than -8? Remember, it is on this side of it, so it is greater. It is greater. Okay, see how important that number line is when you're dealing with two negative numbers? It's really important. Okay, all right, so you have two problems to do. All right, so you have these two problems. Go ahead and pause the video. If you need to use the number line, you can, or if you just want to plot the points, you can. Pause the video and come back and check your answer. All right, check your answer. Obviously, guys, if you have a positive number, that's always going to be greater than a negative number. Again, it's when you have those two negative numbers. So -5 and -8. -5 is here. -8 is over here. So -5 is greater. Okay? All right, let's look at it. Let's look at this situation here. Decide on three numbers that are more than -4. More, that means greater, but less than 2. So if I look at my number line here, I'm just going to plot where those points are. So -4 is going to be right here. Here's my -4. And here's where my 2 is going to be. This is 2. Okay, so I want something that is more. Remember, more is this direction, greater is this way, but less than 2. So doesn't it have to be somewhere between these two? Has to be somewhere in the middle. So three numbers, my goodness, we could have a lot of different. We could have -1, we could have -1, -2, -3. We could have +1, and then we could deal with all the half numbers in there. Okay, 1.5. We could have 3/4, anything like that. Okay, do you see how that works? So something greater than 4 but less than 2. Okay, that's looking at inequalities. Okay, we're going to talk more about that. Let's see. I think you have now. You already have that one. All right, so your turn down here. All right, you have 9 problems. I want you to pause the video. I want you to do those 9 problems and come back for your answer. Remember, look at your number line above if you need to. All right, go ahead and check your answers. If you have any questions with these and you don't understand why, please ask questions. Don't just sit there and say you kind of get it. If you don't understand, especially those negative and negative numbers, you need to ask questions. If you notice, I put this down here again so you can look at it. -4 is greater than -5 because -4 is further to the right. Okay? All right, again, if you have questions with this, make sure and ask. All right? All right, so now I'm going to lead you into you writing these statements, okay, writing inequality statements. So this says -5 is greater than -7. So if I look at this one, which one would be furthest to the right on this number line? Well, let's go ahead and do it. So here's -5, and here is -7. So the one furthest to the right would be -5. So that's why 5 is the greater number. Remember, furthest to the right is the greater number. So -5 is greater than -7. Okay, that's one way you could write this. -5 is greater than -7. You could also start with -7 and say -7, because it's further to the left, is less than -5. So that's two ways you can write, you can compare these two numbers. Okay? All right, so you have that one on your notes. So let's look at the next one, which you also have on your notes. Why don't you go ahead and do that one? Go ahead and put it on the number line. So 3 and -2. So which one is furthest to the right? Hopefully you said 3. So 3 is greater than negative 2. Remember, the numbers furthest to the right are the greater numbers. So you could say 3 is greater than negative 2. You can also say negative 2, because it's to the left, is less than 3. 2 is less than, negative 3. Nope, that was positive 3. That was right. Negative 2 is less than 3. Okay? All right, so let's look now. I want you to write an inequality statement. So first of all, you need to look at the two numbers that you're looking at. So you're looking at negative 3 and 4. Okay? So those are two numbers I'm looking at. So the first thing I want to look at was which one is furthest to the right. Which one is furthest to the right? So that is 4. So that means 4 is the greater number. So 4 is greater than negative 3. Okay? And if I want to turn it around, if I want to start with negative 3, I could have also said negative 3 is less, because it's furthest to the left, is less than 4. Okay, do you see how I'm writing those down? Okay. All right, you have 2 to do. Can you see those little, hopefully you can see the little dots there. So this one is at negative 6 and 2, and this one is at negative 8 and 1. So I want you to write an inequality statement for both of those. If you want to write both of them, that'd be great, but I at least want to see one. So pause the video and then come back with your answer. All right, check those answers. So 2 is greater than negative 6 because it's furthest to the right, or negative 6 is less than 2. 1 is greater than negative 8, or negative 8 is less than 1. Okay? All right, 2 more things here. All right, so here is a real world situation here. On Thursday, the temperature outside was negative 10, and on Friday, it was negative 8. Which day was colder? Okay, so let's just use a number line here. So it was negative 10 on Thursday and negative 8 on Friday. Okay, which day was colder? Which day was colder? That would be negative 10. So that is Thursday. And to write an inequality, again, negative 8 is greater than negative 10, or negative 10 is less than negative 8. Okay? All right, you do the next one. Same thing. You do that one, pause the video, and come back. All right, check that answer. Tuesday was colder, and the inequality would be negative 3 is greater than negative 7, or negative 7 is less than negative 3. Either one I'll take. All right, here's your exit slip. You have room at the bottom of your notes page to do these 2 problems, and I'll check it tomorrow. Have a great day.